Je m'appelle Stuart Aschenbrenner.
You picky prick.
Stuart's series selection.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Stuart, along with Steve from Best Thriller Books, and this is another edition of Stuart's Series Selection.
Yeah.
Steve's got it. All right. Today, I'm very excited to talk to Steve about this author. So, what we do here is we pick an author who we've read all of their canon, and we pick their de facto book. However, with this author, I have yet to finish all of them, and Steve hasn't quite finished all of them either, but I think we'll meet in the middle. So today's author, without any further ado, is William Kent Krueger. And Steve and I got the pleasure of going to one of his book signings and discussions in Hood River, and it was awesome. But Steve, you read the entire Cork O'Connor series last year, right? Or over
Yeah.
the course of a year?
Over the course of a year. I think I started in late 2021 when I think that was when Lightning Strike came out, or 2022, right? I don't know. The years are blending together at this point. But Lightning Strike came out. I read it. I'm like, holy crap, what have I been missing? And I went back and read the next, 17 books in the course of a year, and then the new one came out and last year, and I read that, and so I'm all caught up on all 19.
Wow. That's so impressive. And for me personally, I had read the standalones, and I hadn't done the Cork O'Connor series until you had told me that. And so I did the say I even got your opinion. I said, which book do I start with? You said Lightning Strike. And so I'm blazing my way through them right now. I'm just going back to back to back for the most part. But
Awesome.
with that in mind, Steve, do you want to give your Steve's series selection for your William Kent Krueger?
So I'll stick with the Kirk O'Connor books. I've read a couple of the standalones, and they're fantastic, and we can talk about that later too. But yeah, so I'm cheating. I'm gonna kind of throw up four, and then one of them I'll tell you is sort of my quintessential Cork O'Connor book, or maybe the one that really resonated with me the most. So you just talked about it. Lightning Strike was the first one I read. It's a great entry point into it. It's a prequel that really sets the tone for who Cork is going to become, his family, the area that he lives in, and some of the characters. And so, absolutely the right place to start if you're going to go, read the series. So that's one I can't highly recommend enough. Iron Lake is the first book that was published in the series. Again, it really it sets the tone, and it's not all rainbows and butterflies at the beginning with what's happening with Cork and his family and some of the things happening in the town, and it's really emotional and really sort of a lot of gut punches that you might not get from every author, every book, and so it just sort of fuels the fire of, hey, I got to find out more. I got to go to that next book. To figure out what's going to happen with these characters. You really get invested really quick. So that one for sure. Then Fox Creek. So this is the most recent published Cork O'Connor book, which I know, I think you've read. But yeah, it's phenomenal, right? And it pulls in Henry Malou quite a bit, who is one of my all-time favorite characters, with his wisdom and his spirituality and sort of his prescience, and what he does for Cork along the way. It's another one that just hits really hard, and I just can't say anything, but praise for it. But the one that really sort of rocked me to my core and is like the book, although I would not recommend reading this one by itself. I would absolutely recommend reading the series. But this one just really just crushed me in a good way and an emotional way, is Heaven's Keep. I will not say exactly why, because it is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't read the series, although it came out a long time ago. But it proves why William Kent Krueger is such a brilliant storyteller, in that he's able to keep suspense on something that maybe should be a foregone conclusion early on in the book, and it impacts the characters in such an immense way that it completely changes the trajectory of the entire series. So the series kind of going one way, this happens, and then it goes sort of a different way, and puts more trials and tribulations in Cork's path. And so because of that, it just stuck with me. It really messed with my head, and hit me right in the feels as well. So that's the one for me.
All
But
right.
again, I would not just jump to that one. I would read the series from Lightning Strike all the way through chronologically.
That's fascinating because I have yet to get to that book yet. So I am probably halfway through the series, so I'm close to it. I think I'm a book or two away. Um, so that's awesome. And I really like what you mentioned about Lightning Strike and Iron Lake, and I was very surprised with how well Lightning Strike segued into Iron Lake 20 year like when the book was actually written 20 years later.
Right.
I was so impressed where like I finished Lightning Strike, started Iron Lake, and it felt like just a very natural progression to the story, which seems like it would be hard to do that long later.
Especially when there's a time gap between those two books as well, not just in publication, but like Lightning Strike is Cork at a younger age
Teenager.
than Iron Lake, right?
Yeah.
And it does it works seamlessly, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, and so to add to that, so I grabbed two books in typical BTB fashion, never choose just one. Um, Probably my favorite I've read thus far in that series is probably Lightning Strike, as you mentioned. It might be some of that bias too, because it was the first one I picked up in the series, and I read it,
Sure.
and I was so surprised because it has a almost a Western meets small town meets rural. It's a very interesting combination of all these different pieces that click together, um, and that make it like a really enjoyable read. Like um, it's not super tense the whole time to where you're done and you're exhausted. Like it's a very I very much enjoy reading these. Um, so that was my Cork O'Connor pick, and I know you said you've read some of the standalones. So
Yeah.
um, probably my de facto Stuart series selection for William Kent Krueger. And I don't know if you've read this, Steve, but you'll have to tell me, is This Tender Land?
Yes, I have.
Um,
It's fantastic.
it's so good. It's like I don't know, Stand By Me meets Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, and it's it's just a brilliant coming of age tale that I've always found that type of book almost like we see it more now with kind of these noir style books that's just like it's a tale of a human that gets caught in extraordinary circumstances. And I'm always so impressed when authors can keep a reader engaged through like a coming of age tale,
Yeah.
and develop a character so well in just like that many pages. Um, and like you said, the heartstrings, everything, emotion. This is one of those books that really hits you in your soul.
Yeah.
Um, and I absolutely devoured it. It was maybe the second Kent book I read, but has remained at the top for me.
Yeah. I think I remember tweeting about it when I first read it and said, this must be what it felt like to read Huck Finn for the first time when it was published.
Mm,
Like it has that feel to it. So when your combination of Sawyer and Finn and all totally resonates with me. I know exactly what you're saying, and yeah, it's got sort of a classic feel to it. Um, but for a modern tale almost, right? Even though it takes a place a little bit in the past. But yeah, it hits hard, right?
yeah.
It's enjoyable. It's not dark or noir or anything by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really this journey that you just can't look away from, and you just want to know how it ends.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Steve. So your Steve's series selection, Heaven's Keep.
Heaven's
Great
Keep.
choice.
But,
I can't.
but honestly, the entire Cork O'Connor series I would pick if I could.
Yeah, understandable. And my Stuart series selection, for William Kent Krueger is This Tender Land. So, make sure you grab a copy of either one of these books, or start at the beginning of the Cork O'Connor series, or just pick any of the standalones. They're all fantastic. And I know Steve agrees with me. We can't recommend him enough. A brilliant writer.
100%. He's fantastic. One of my favorite living authors today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Steve. And if you have a selection, your favorite William Kent Krueger book, please leave it in the comments. And happy reading, and we'll see you around BTB. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for having me.